Well, oh my God, this is another moment that counts. I am so blessed. This is actually an extraordinary synchronicity, because here I am with my dear friend, Dr. Scott Shannon, who is the leading integrative psychiatrist in the world. And we've been blessed to serve in the American Board of Integrative Holistic Medicine together and the Academy of Integrative. In fact,
I talked you into becoming next president.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, so,
I remember that call.
Oh, it's so glorious. And of course, we have to pay testimony to Ian Lipson for both of our mentors. And so he was. Scott, you are doing some extraordinary work right now. Extraordinary work. And this channel, the Living Well from Within channel, is dedicated to healing, growth, and facilitating flourishing in the world. Can you share this extraordinary work that you're doing, both in your wholeness center, both in your wholeness, which is an integrative, holistic, psychiatric center, unlike any other in the world. And what I love about wholeness is the root of the word, the root of the word health is wholeness. So talking
Holy.
about holy, exactly. So talking about holy, which invokes a spiritual entry. And in one of the earlier videos, I spoke about my full awakening, which is not only mind, a heart awakening, but it's also I'm right now in full spiritual surrender. So I know the power of that. So you have the center. I know you're doing some extraordinary work with psychedelics to guide the spiritual healing process. So can you, wherever you want to start the story and wherever you want to go, I think everybody watching, both patients, but not only patients, whether you're suffering from PTSD, depression, cancer, or if you're suffering in any other way, I think people will be really inspired to what you have to share.
Well, I would say that over the last 30 years being involved in holistic medicine, integrative psychiatry, it became clear to me about 5 years ago that we were really doing an injustice to the body-mind-spirit paradigm because we weren't addressing spirit at all. We had made great progress in understanding the body, and I think solid progress in understanding the mind, but the spirit was given lip service and nobody really addressed that. And I had started out my career with an interest in consciousness and psychedelics, as it turns out. Had worked with MDMA in the early 80s and saw that medicine could be a tool to helping us access the deeper parts of spirit and heart. And it became clear to me about 5 years ago, I was feeling this personally but also professionally. And our clinic was doing good things. We're a solid innovator in mental health. We do brain maps, QEEGs, biofeedback. We do IV nutrition, a big emphasis with naturopathic medicine and diet. But I didn't feel that we were leveraging the power of spirit very well. And that prompted me to get involved with MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, and we're now one of the phase 3 sites for the use of MDMA in assisting psychotherapy to treat severe PTSD. And we also jumped in with both feet to doing work with ketamine, not its work just as an infusion to help people with depression, but in its work to help people in their dissociation from the physical body to get in touch with spirit. And I've been very impressed by how it can deepen people's perspective, how it can open up an existential framework, and it can lead to a spiritual exploration that so many people that are suffering miss out on. So, there is a study, because I'm thinking this through the lens of, cancer patients,
now I've entered that world, and I want to provide hope and inspirations for others on the journey. And I understand that there was a psilocybin study that actually compared traditional pharmaceutical antidepressive therapy with one dose of psilocybin. Can you share about just like the unbelievable results in that study, what that study was?
Well, there have been a couple studies. One was a study just looking at the power of psilocybin to help people.
That's magic mushroom. For those of you that don't know, psilocybin is essentially magic mushrooms,
which have been used in shamanistic tools for thousands of years. So this one study with one dose of psilocybin, that 60% of people no longer had depression. 83% of people said it was a top 5 experience in their life, with death of a parent, birth of a child, marriage. So it has power, and a year later, the differences and changes in people's lives were still there, still potent. Now, then they did a study with end of life, looking at this same framework, and found the same value for people with one dose or and sometimes 2 doses of psilocybin. And what we're doing now is we're part of a 5-site study looking at ketamine and end of life to help people come to terms with their shortened lifespan, because we all have a short lifespan.
Right.
Life is a terminal process.
Right.
Yeah. And so we're eager to jump into this. So people in the study will have a year or less to live by diagnosis, and they will get 2 experiences with high-dose ketamine to try to have a profound spiritual awakening through the ketamine and a healing with their end-of-life anxiety. And one reason why this is so potent for me is one of my best friends developed ALS a few years ago. And as his life was drawing to a close by the ALS, he asked me about helping him to have a psilocybin experience. He ended up having that, and it profoundly changed his trajectory at the end of his life. And that it really became clear to me at this point that this is a great service to people, and it's something that our society prepares people very poorly for.
So just as an anecdote, when you presented some of that research of the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine Conference a couple of years ago, it was the same year that the Journal of Psychopharmacology had the entire issue dedicated to psychedelic, psychotherapy. The whole, and I looked at those studies. Now, up until that point, I had not done any hallucinogens. Up until that point, I've never even experienced it. But I was entering the year, and a dear friend of mine said, "What's your goal for the year?" And I said, "My goal for the year is to open my heart and deepen my spiritual connection." He said to me, "Would you be open to doing a psilocybin experience?" So it was because of you and the research that I had full confidence to go for it.
Yeah.
And then Sue, with her blessing, so I had this extraordinary experience. And I was up in Encinitas. It was a guided journey because somebody had a temple in their backyard. And so it's always, what I understand with these experiences, it's a dose and setting, right? You need to have some expertise in dose and setup and setting, right? And follow through. And so the container was just wonderful. And then I drank some tea. That was how it was administered. And I just felt relaxed. And I thought to myself, wow, nothing's really happening here. Maybe this is just my normal state. Maybe I just am in the normal psilocybin state. And then they say, well, we think you're underdosed. So they gave me 2 more cups of tea in rapid succession. And then what happened was I entered my first hallucination ever. But I entered in a bad trip. The image I got was I experienced metal snakes devouring my flesh from the inside out. It was a terrifying experience, but here's what saved me. I have a mindfulness practice where I can actually sit back and observe, and there's a certain kind of, when you shift from being swept away by your experience to observing your experience, a stability of mind emerges. And so what happened was I was being swept away by these metal snakes. And I began to move into a place of observation. And as I moved into a place of observation, I had the most exquisite experience that I could hold them. That I could hold these metal snakes. And at that point, I'm even thinking about how this is preparing me for my transition now. Because I remember saying at the time, I could hold anything, including the possibility of death itself. I remember saying that at the time. I've only made that connection just right now, as we're speaking about it. So that experience was almost like it was definitely one of the top 5 experiences of my life. It was hands down, as you described, hands down the top. And you know what? Didn't crave. I had that experience, and I didn't crave to do it again, and I haven't done it again. It was so whole and complete, and I was so aware of it. But it felt like I did 5 years of mindfulness practice in those 6 hours.
It's transformative.
It's transformative. So to be able to sit here on this rock, and actually that reminds me of Zaki talking about his rock crumbling. So they're having this rock of this foundation. So there's something metaphorical about the rock having a solid conversation in service of others.
I'd like to know what it does for people from a therapeutic point of view.
Yeah.
From a therapeutic point of view, it helps people to let go of their depression, because depression tends to be a trap where we become so self-referential that we lose our perspective and our connection to everything else. And one of the consistent vehicles for psychedelics is to see everything as connected.
Yeah.
And that we're not different from each other, we're not different from the planet, we're not different from life itself and death itself.
Yeah.
And that there is unity to all this. And when you have that experience, your fear of death tends to melt away.
Yeah.
Your suffering in life tends to be decreased, and you're freed up.
Yeah.
And really, it's a profound tool for helping people get unstuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it help in the healing process?
It does help in the healing process. It's often the start of a process, but then you need therapy to help integrate it, to make sense of it, and to bring it into your life. Because if it remains just an experience without a tether into your life, it has more trivial value. Because people can hallucinate all day long and not be healed by it.
Yeah.
The healing comes from having a transformative experience and then being able to see it and express it through your life.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, Scott, I first of all, I just love and appreciate you, my brother. I just like, oh my God. Is there a message of hope in all of this that you can give to everybody who might be suffering? A message of hope, of healing that you could provide to people? In this close, what would you say to anybody suffering who's actually looking for a healing way forward?
I would say that we're all born whole, and we all have the ability to find wholeness in our life. There are many powerful tools, psychedelics being just one of them. You've been through a powerful process yourself with a diagnosis, and there's so many different ways that we can heal. But what I would tell people is we all have the potential to heal and heal ourselves.
That seems like an appropriate place to end. Thank you so much.
Talk about the name of the clinic and where it is, Scott's clinic.
Wholeness Center in Fort Collins, Colorado. Wholeness.com is our website.
And we will put all that contact information. We will put all that contact information. Are you open to people reaching out to you?
Sure.
Well, you're about to be flooded. So we'll put that contact information in the description below this video.